with BB trucks. And EMD said, no, we don't think so. And they created that D truck that apparently worked out very well. They were under.
As Greg said, they developed the Flexicoil 8-axle truck, and it really worked well. They built a lot of them, actually. They because I think they built weren't there about, Craig, 50 of these things?
45. There were 30 original DD35s, which were without cabs, and then they ordered them with cabs, the DD35A, and they got 15 of those.
Okay.
So 35.
And then they used the same truck under the DD40, and there were what, 40 of those or something?
47.
47. So almost 100 units.
Yeah.
And they ran, and they got a lot of mileage out of these things.
But then they put them under those DDM 45s in Brazil. There were lots of those.
Yes.
SD 45s with narrow gauge DD trucks.
Yeah.
Ross, you said there were 8 axles?
Yeah, there's 8 axles. So there's a traction motor here, 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 and here.
So, and then there's this, and then you got 4 on the rear truck?
Yeah, 4 in the rear truck too.
Yeah, it's a 4-axle truck. Yeah.
Okay.
If we ever get back to Ross's, he's got models of these.
Yeah, I've got a few pictures of your because Craig, you made one of these. This is a DD35B, which I believe SP had a few of them too.
Yeah, I think 3 of them.
Yeah. And there's the demo, which they never made. And this is also, this is the plan they got from EMD. And so this was originally, and of course, Athearn jumped on it right away, and they made a DD40. Well, Athearn never, or the EMD never made a DD40. So it looks.
That's a nice model.
But it's almost identical to the DD35. So we call it that. The fans are a little bit different, but yeah, those were Athearn would put a motor here and a motor there, and so it was, and they were heavy, so they were good pullers.
Yeah.
Now, not all 4 axles on a truck would be driven for a model, though, would it?
I think they.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, they
have flanges on the wheels.
Yeah, yeah, they had enough play.
Lateral
play. Yeah, Athearn did a good job. I was really impressed.
Okay.
Athearn was really smart. He figured out how to do this stuff. Yeah, they have enough lateral play on the axles, and then they had the gears inside, and then they had a worm gear on one end, and then they had the motor, and then they also had a single motor one where they had a long shaft, but they work pretty well. So here's the DD35A. First thing, I think, Craig, they came out with the B units first, right? And the idea was
right.
you put a GP35 on one end, a GP35 on the other end, and then you have 2. I think I got a picture someplace in here. Yeah, here it is. This was the idea. So you get 20,000 or 15,000 horsepower.
Actually, it's an SD45 on that.
Yeah, but anyway, they'd have a GP35.
Okay.
A B unit, and a GP35. Yeah, you're right. It is an SD45. So these are running, but that was kind of the concept.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's an A and a B. And then later on, they said, well, let's build A's. And so there's an A unit. And there's the U50B and then the DD35A, and the DD35A was obviously much more successful. Yeah, they don't even look anywhere near the same.
Oh.
You never know they were the same horsepower, same tractive effort. Then in 1969, they came out with that model that the Athearn showed there, and then UP said, well, we want to upgrade it because General Motors had come up with their Dash 2 electronics with modular transistors and very advanced wheel slip and stuff like that. And they'd also upgraded the engine to the SD50, 3,300 horsepower per per engine, 16-cylinder engine. So General Motors said, well, okay, we'll build a DD40 that's going to be 6,600 horsepower. And then they came up with this, because the Canadians had come up with this concept of a wide cab. And so this is the cab off the F45 on this engine. And so these things were 6,600 horsepower. They were numbered in the 6,900s because they had they first showed up at the centennial of the UP, which is 1969. But these things, I forget what they were in the millions of miles they ran on these things. I think one of them hit 10 or 15 million miles. I mean, it was
I don't know about that. I know they were running them 40,000 miles a month.
Yeah.
And they just ran them and ran them and ran them. And they were not, they were 98 and a half feet long. And the reason it was no longer was because that was the absolute size of the erection bay at EMD. They couldn't have moved them down the erection bay if they were any longer than 98 feet 6 inches. And if you want to see one, go to Omaha. I'll tell you, when you drive across a bridge from Council Bluffs on I-80, high up on the hill, there's a DD-A40X and a big boy sitting right on top of the hill. You cannot miss it. It takes your breath away.
So if they ran them 40,000 miles a month and they ran them 12, well, say a lot of them ran 12 years or longer, that's 6 million miles.
6 million miles, yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of, I mean, that's a lot of miles. There are astronauts that didn't get 6 million miles. So, yeah, it was really a good design.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to see him run a couple of times. That was fun.
Do you know of any particular challenges that were unique for engineers driving those engines?
Hold tight to the reins. Oh boy.
Yeah. The cabs were really good visibility. They rode really well. That was what they were really impressed with. That 4-axle truck rode just like it was beautiful. And a couple months ago, I put out a video of film I took when they were cruising by at 70 miles an hour, and they just rode beautifully. So this thing, I have no idea why they would need. There's 4 of those and an SD40. So that would be, what's 4 times 6,600 plus 3,000? I mean, it's just, you'd think you pulled the coupler out. I don't know. Anyway, that's in Cheyenne. So 4 of those things. That's just amazing. So there they are. Yeah, 98 and a half feet long.
29,000 horsepower.
So here's the DD40, which they never built, but they said they were going to build, and it was offered, but nobody bought them. So here's a display unit someplace at one of the fairs or something. And there's Craig's model. That's running on the layout, and this is from a video. So that's how they'd run them. SD40 and back. Here's crossing the bridge. And they would sometimes get off the property. They'd go all the way to Chicago. But they were here's the Craig, you want to talk about this? This was one you actually built, because nobody ever made a B unit.
Yeah, it's a dummy. There's no motor in it. It was an Athearn DD40, and then with an extra DD40 shell and a couple of GP35 shells. So the walkway, well, I'm using my pointer here, but you can't see it. But the walkway and the butt end of it, if you look at the where the dynamic brake blister is, from the dynamic brakes to the rear, going the other way to the rear, that's from the DD40.
This is from the DD40.
But from the dynamic brakes to the center, that's off a GP35.
Yeah, because it's got the right fans. Okay.
Right. So just cutting them up and putting them together, and there it was. I thought, that ain't bad.
No, and there were 30 of them, and they ran them, and they even showed up in Minneapolis because I know Jim Henshaw, who was an engineer on the Northwestern, had pictures of them at Cedar Lake. So,
Huh. Yeah. Wow.
and apparently a U-50 got up here, and they took it in the house and knocked the horns off because it was
Oh yeah,
tall.
it's set pretty high.
It was too tall.
I heard with the UP's interchange with the Rock Island it said no 6-axle power. And they wound up having a U-50 B plus B show up in Chicago on the Rock Island. And, oh my God, how many of their bridges did they wreck getting
Yeah.
it? So they had to find some different way to get it back home.
Yeah, here's the B unit again. So that was good model. So here's that they have several of these are running around. This is on a executive train or something like that. Or
That 6936 might be the only one that's running around.
only one, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. The guy who runs the railroad out in Mitchell, he goes from Mitchell, South Dakota to Chamberlain. It's got one sitting in Chamberlain, rusting away.
There's one at the Portola Museum in California.
Yeah, Utah Railway engine.
Yep.
Yeah, 5005.
Yeah. Morrison Knudsen construction company, and also built. They had a locomotive rebuilding plant in Boise. They still have it, actually, still there. I think it's owned by Wabtec now. But take General Motors and General Electric on and beat them in the locomotive game, if you can imagine. And so they came up with this, and it sort of looks like a GM sort of, I don't know, hybrid GM GE. It's a 5,000 horsepower. It's a 5,000 horsepower Caterpillar engine in back, a 16-cylinder engine. And so they built these things, and they cost a fortune to build. And they demonstrated them. I think I got a picture of one someplace back here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's the picture. It's a MK 5000C. And so if the CAT engine was kind of an oddball, it worked okay, but eventually what happened is they sold these to like Utah Railroad and some of these other companies that I think have them, and then they put basically the guts out of an old SD50. So they're 3,300 horsepower. General Motors stuff inside the hood. But if you can imagine the hubris of taking General Motors and General Electric on, who have been building locomotives for 50 to 80 years, and you're going to beat them at their own game. So, and I don't know, it costs tens of millions to build these damn things, but they're still running around because I mean
that second engine in the picture, I got a picture of that thing over at Pig's Eye here a couple months ago. Thought that's the weirdest looking thing. From the cab back, it's an SD45, but it's got that special cab on it. There's nothing like it anywhere else.
Yeah, it must.
Well,
they must have taken one of these things, and I don't know. That'd be interesting. You have to do some research on what the heck that is.
Maybe it had an accident and that's what they had to put on.
Could be.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So our friends at Genesee in Wyoming got some of them, and so they're still running around, but they're all now SD50s in disguise.
Or did Genesee and Wyoming get a hold of them, or did Genesee and Wyoming take over Utah Railway? I think that's probably what happened.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There's a UR there. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're buying railroads everywhere. You're absolutely right. Good catch. I didn't see the UR. Okay. Yeah, they have the Rapid City and Eastern. They bought that from Duluth. What was it? Dakota, Minnesota, and Eastern. So they have track from they run from basically Rapid City to Winona, Minnesota.
Apparently, what the deal is with that is they pick up these small railroads, and then they can look after all the administrative things for all of them, and it keeps the costs, spreads the costs way out over a whole lot of smaller railroads.
that's a way to do it, because a small railroad, keeping up with all the regulations and hazardous waste and all that stuff would be really hard to do.
Yeah.
So
What was the name of this engine?
there it is, MK 5000C.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, that's high horsepower units.
Wow.
But they flirt with this every few years, and then they go back to standardized units, because it doesn't work to have specialized units.